Good evening, Shawnee Mountains Garage. If you watched, and I hope you did, part one of the front suspension rebuild of the 71 Nova, I called it quits when I went in to cook lunch. I made a wonderful beef stew with biscuits, good stuff, and I didn't think I was coming back out for the day, and then I did. So I have mocked up the unknown control arms, the tubular control arms, and I was in hopes of the geometry being different than stock, because the more you lower a Nova or first-gen Camaro, third-gen Nova, the more the tires want to tip in. I'm sitting in the driver's seat. The lower the suspension goes, they just drop right in, and there's not enough adjustment to get them out. So you either got to run it jacked up, looking like it's four-wheel drive, which I don't like, or you got to do something. Now, these control arms are just a guess. You don't know who made them. The box says EUSA, which could be the company, they have part numbers on it. I haven't Googled them. It doesn't matter. They're either going to work or they're not. I'm going to show you what I found, and in the end, that spindle is stuffed, and I'm still at 90 degrees. And it travels throughout its whole bumper to bumper, and it stays at 90 degrees. That's cool. That's what I wanted. Total luck, but we achieved it. Now, I'll show you what I did and what I found. This is the driver's side control arm. Obviously, I haven't installed it yet, but the other one is installed, and you can't see it as well. When I took a look at it and the bushings, there was absolutely zero flex, zero room for error, and I thought to myself, the stock ones go in kind of difficult. This is going to suck. But, pleasantly surprised, it literally fell in place. Funny story, I was watching Build this week where they're building a Camaro in a week. The first thing they do, everything's all powder coated and painted and everything else, is they start the bolt in the lower control arm and they go get the giant hammer and start beating on it. I don't understand that. Just wiggle it around. It'll fall right in by hand. If it doesn't go in by hand, stop. Those aren't nails, they're bolts. All right, let's go look at the rest of it. So, the lower control arm, total win, fell right in place. I did run a tap, and I was hoping that these weren't metric, but they're actually 5/16 course. So, and I forgot, the sway bar will work in that hole. It's the correct size for the little offset in the bushing. It lines right up with the sway bar. That's going to work. The low control arm, I'm going to call it a bolt-on. I don't call a lot of parts bolt-on. I'm not done yet, but so far, so good. And then I went and grabbed the upper control arm. First thing I noticed, there's two washers missing on the upper ball joint bolts, and the other two aren't tight. And I'm sure this is just like the other one. It won't sit down in his pocket because it's welding slag, and a couple places the bead where they welded it's too big. So instead of fixing that or even doing any quality control, they just went ahead and put the bolts in loose and let you find out for yourself when it shears these off on the side of the road, because that's going to stop moving because it's not flat. Bad situation. Fixed it in 5 minutes, but you got to look this junk over really good. I don't care who makes it. So that was okay. Step two, I noticed this is very fat, and these bushings on either side come out, and they're offset. So I was thinking to myself, this is one geometry change for the positive. I can move the upper control arm rearward, which is going to give me more caster. I'm going to be tilting it back toward the driver's seat, the upper control arm, the upper ball joint. So I'm going to have more caster. And I wanted more caster. That's a win. I haven't measured it yet, but it looks significantly more than the other side, at least, just by eye. This setup does not allow you, in the factory, you would just move shims between this and the subframe, and you would adjust your caster and camber at the same time. This is now too fat, and it will not pivot over the bolts. It's either in or out. So you can adjust your camber, but caster is here. You got two choices. Control arm forward or control arm back. I mounted it back. So I marked it in the car with one shim on both sides, just on a lark, and I'll show you what I found. Also neglected to mention the nuts are not engaged in the nylon yet. That one started a little bit, but I assume they want you to tighten these up afterwards. We're going to see what happens. But again, with no guidance, I can tell you right now they need to be tighter. And I'll do whatever I have to do to accomplish that so they don't fall off. So this is the untouched driver's side, and I won't insult your intelligence by even measuring it. You can see it's tipped in at the top. And this situation doesn't improve a whole lot when you jack it up. I can improve, there's 3 shims over here, and I could improve it some, but I know from experience, I've done enough Novas that the more you lower it with the spring, the more this situation takes place. And it's very difficult to get the tire straight up and down, so it's not going to wear out. So this is where I was hoping the aftermarket control arm would do that. So as I mentioned, I know this is significantly fatter than my original one, which had 3 shims, so I just guessed at 1 shim fore and aft, same size, because like I said, I can't cock this control arm to manipulate the caster. I can only change the camber. And camber was my biggest worry. Extra caster is just a bonus. But let me show you on the rotor what happened. This was kind of a bad to put in. It gets really close over here, and you had to tilt it up and getting this stuff lined up. It took a minute. It looks easy, but it wasn't. So for this exercise, I just pointed the rotor straight ahead, and I've got it jacked up so the lower control arm bumper is against the frame, a situation I will likely never incur. But I wanted to test it. And I'm sitting at 90 degrees. Now I'm going to lower the jack. It's on my transmission jack. I'm going to lower it, see if I can keep the gauge right on there. Here we go. Almost down. Now we're on the... Oh, it was good to let move, but now we're on the other bumper. Still at 90 degrees. That's incredible. And the best win of the day. That makes me happy. Never would have achieved that with stock. I could put bushings in the stock ones, and I'm still going to fight alignment issues that I can't fix. So, whoever built these, thank you. You tried to kill me in a couple situations, but I outfoxed you on that one. And they seem pretty rugged. I mean, I don't see any reason not to run them. And I like what it's done for my geometry, so I'm going to. I don't really like the looks compared to the stock ones, but I probably won't open the hood much anyway. The stock one kind of covers the ugly part of the frame up there, that stand. So whenever I've seen aftermarket control arms on these, I'm thinking, well, just from an appearance standpoint, not my favorite. But I've looked at my 72 Nova. Let's go look at this one before. This actually has, name brand, hopefully better, control arms. And just playing with this one day, I found pretty much the same thing. It'll, throughout its travel, the tire stays flat. And that was a design flaw, if you will, when they originally made them. So I've kind of got used to looking at these arms. And these actually don't look as rugged as the other ones. Maybe they were, excuse me, maybe they're made out of better metal, but this car actually has coilovers, which is an option on the other arms. I was just looking online. I don't know if it fits the stock spring pocket. This is different, so I don't know. I have to look it up, but I'm going to run the stock coil spring and be happy with it. So I gave the stock spring the old Krylon touch, and I guess I'm ready for final assembly. I'm not going to bore you with that. I'll show you both sides when they're done. I wish I had an engine in it so I could actually put it down on the ground and see if I need to adjust the spring height or if just the lowering spindles is going to do it. I hope they do, because I say I'd like to keep the stock spring whole, but I'll do what I got to do to make it look cool. Make me happy when I look at it. Really don't care what anybody else thinks, but I want to be happy when I look at it. I'm actually going to call it a day now. This day's had 3 segments. I started about 6 a.m. to 9, and then about 11 to 1, and then about 4 to 6:30, 7 o'clock, whatever time it is now. It gets dark so early, you can't tell. It's probably 4:30. I could look at the clock, but I don't care. I'm going in the house. Thanks for watching. I don't know where we're headed next. I got quite a bit of assembly work still to do. I haven't done the other side yet. I probably will show you if my paint was dry in my spring, I'd do it right now. But to collapse the spring, when I put the spring compressor up through the control arm and made the spring loose, that spring was at 12 inches. I took it off the spring compressor to paint it, and its free length is 16 inches. So you got to compress that 4 inches to get it back in the car, and that's what you do. If you compress it and take it out of the car and you want to go do the other side, you got to measure its collapse length. Otherwise, you got to keep test fitting it. So I know it needs to be at least 12 inches, if not shorter. If I make it 11 and a half, probably that much easier. These lower control arms have a different looking bucket, so I don't know what's going to happen when I go to put it in. But I don't anticipate any problem. It should fit. And who knows? Have a great evening. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.